Hello and welcome to this video for the MSc Applied Machine Learning for Creatives postgraduate course at the CCI. A little introduction to me. My name is Lou McCallum. I am the course leader. I've been at CCI since 2020. Before that, I was a researcher at Goldsmiths. Before that, I did my PhD at Queen Mary, as you can see in this lovely picture, making robots that play music. I've also worked in startups for music tech and AI, built tools for musicians and artists, used at big festivals, built a number of open source creative computing projects, and I also regularly perform music around London in the live code and algorithmic scene. Why would you want to come to the Creative Computing Institute? CCI is a research institute situated within UAL. Whilst primarily research institute at the beginning, we have loads of students and a whole breadth of postgraduate courses, as you'll see here. And it's really exciting to be a computing department within such a amazing world-leading art and design school, which is definitely a pretty unheard of thing. So specifically about the course, um, MSc Applied Machine Learning for Creatives. I think fulfills a really important role, specifically at the time we're in now. Not to put too fine a point on it, but we see at a really critical point within the creative industries. And this is something which is almost completely down to the use of AI within that. I've been in this field for about 20 years, probably. Um, and whilst it used to be um, interesting and experimental, it's now right at the forefront of shaping how we move forward. And I think because of that, it's really important who's involved in this. So as a conversion course and situated within an art school, we will teach you the technical skills to understand and be able to work within this space. However, we accept people from arts and humanities backgrounds, and their critical and artistic and creative ideas in this space are going to be crucial in, I think, pointing the creative industries in the right direction. I've found generally in my experience, it's a lot easier to take people who already have that critical and creative understanding and teach them engineering skills than it is to try and give that criticality to engineers. Beyond that, the way that we consume and create creative work now leaves a massive trail of data around the internet. So obviously, people that are collecting this want to use this to answer questions about how to improve their products, how to improve the area in general. Obviously, there are a lot of like data boot camps and stuff kicking around, which will give you kind of generic data science skills. However, there are some real key nuances to analyzing creative work and also things like streaming services and their massive back catalogs, which we'll really get time to dig into in this very specialized course. You'll also be able to develop your own creative work using really cutting edge techniques. So that's a really interesting thing for developing your own practice, as well as learning a bunch of transferable technical skills in the coding and machine learning worlds. Um, in the first term, we'll run 2 units. Encoding for digital media. We will look at how audio, images, and video are represented on computers and all the fun things we can do with them once they're there. We'll also run a unit called conversational interfaces. As chatbots are the main way that people interface with AI at the moment, this is a really interesting unit. And kind of text processing and kind of personality design is a really interesting way to get into your kind of introduce people to machine learning and building projects. Um, I'm going to focus on some of the interesting work that our previous students have done. And first, we're going to look at some of the work people have done with processing text. Um, this one in the bottom right you'll see here is work by Vandana Shetty, who looked at using the emotional content and sentiment of films to provide film recommendations, which is a kind of interesting way. So we're not really focusing on necessarily the content of the films, but the kind of emotional reaction that people have from them and using that to recommend films to people. Daniela Meyer Rueda also did some really great work with running large language models on local machines for journalists who work with com confidential sources. So they don't want to upload their um, sensitive information to big third-party services and tech companies. So this is really interesting and really actually really important vital work. In the second term after Christmas, we're running a unit called Data Science for Creative Industries. This is where we will focus on what are the questions we can ask of this data, what data will we need, what models will I use, how do I interpret the result, how confident can I be in that when we're reporting it to someone. So this will teach you key statistical and data science skills specifically for answering questions within the creative industry. We'll also run a two-term unit called Multimedia Machine Learning. This is basically an introduction to media and analysis and generation using deep learning. So this will run across two terms, so all the way into the summer, and will really give you a deep understanding of contemporary deep learning methods. We're going to have a quick look now at some digital media analysis work. So here we have a project by Nadia Alsagoff, who scraped a load of stuff from a clothing company, and she was looking for examples of modest fashion that weren't flagged as modest fashions. This is really interesting, because there are a lot of clothes which could serve the purposes of modest fashion, but aren't necessarily flagged for that. So this really opens up the world for people who are looking for things like that. She used natural language processing techniques to analyze these things. And also Eurotang was interested in how can you scrape design websites to find ongoing trends. That's very interesting work as well there. In the third term, obviously, we'll be continuing with the multimedia machine learning, and we'll also do a unit called performing data. This will be less focused on technical stuff, which hopefully by this point everyone's built up some great technical skills. And we'll be focusing on how this is used in practice, specifically how this can be used in performance, so music performance, installation art, things that work in real time. Hopefully, this will be a really nice embodied shared performance group work unit. Now we'll focus a little bit on some of the generative AI work that's been done over the years. First, we've got work by Lois Kelly in the top right there. She was looking at, can you analyze people's saxophone solos to determine which historical jazz musicians they sound like the most, and then using that data to generate visuals based on that. We actually had to retrain some of the big models with kind of images of jazz musicians that weren't in there already. So it was a kind of fun fine-tuning project. Ina Harask also did a really great project working on small data sets. So she looked at how we can use generative models to both design sketches in the style of an existing designer and how we can then use those sketches to be turned into more photorealistic outputs. In the final term, so across the summer, you'll work on your most substantial piece of work. So hopefully you've picked up a bunch of interesting skills and you do your final machine learning project. This will involve some piece of physical artifact, so such software, an interactive system, a performance, a creative work, installation art, and also a write-up in the form of a thesis or portfolio. When you apply, always check the website for the most up-to-date information. Currently, we're looking for things like personal statements and CVs. As I said, this is a conversion course, so we're looking for a good quality bachelor's degree, but not necessarily a history of technical skills. And honestly, when I look at applications, I want just to see an interest in specific course-related topics. Show me you're interested. Show me you know what you're applying for. The CCI offers excellent postgrad communities. We saw the number of students there. There are a bunch of great events and stuff that go on through all the courses, and we really encourage cross-course collaborations. Careers that people either have gone on to do from the course or the jobs that I regularly see recommended to me. So people contact me saying, Louis, do you know someone who could do this? Developing software for musicians, artists, or startups, data analytics for media companies, streaming companies, or record labels, generative artists. So this can either be for your own personal practice or kind of one-off specific freelance gigs. Some people go into further academic research or teaching. And if you really want to move outside of the creative industries once you're finished, all of the skills that you will learn here will be very transferable to other aspects of data and machine learning. Um, Always check the website. There are a limited number of scholarships available through UAL. Go to the URL here. You can follow us on the various social media platforms. And if you are interested in coming to in-person events such as graduate shows or open evenings, use the email address there to contact us. Thank you.